Rogue had a strong start to their summer season, finishing the first half with a 7-2 record in first place. Despite falling to G2 in Week 5, they continue to hold joint first place as we go into the last 3 weeks of the regular season. Today, we're going to look at how Rogue has solidified themselves at the top of the standings with their dominant early game, one of the hallmarks of their gameplay. In the first half of the season, Rogue averaged a 2.5k gold lead at 15 minutes, which was well above the rest of the league. Fnatic, who are second in this department, averaged a 1.2k gold lead. So, how do Rogue consistently find early game advantages? It all starts with their drafting tendencies. Rogue put heavy focus on having lanes that have priority, or in other words, lanes that are able to push in their opponents. This frees up their jungler, Inspired, as lanes that have priority have the ability to move first or just limit their opponents from moving, thus giving him more options in the early game where he can look to get double scuttle, secure neutral objectives, or invade the enemy jungler. In their Week 1 match versus XL, and with 3 priority lanes, Inspired is easily able to find Xin Zhao in his jungle, and then secures both Scuttle Crabs. Dan can't contest Scuttle Crabs, as this could lead to him being collapsed by Rogue's members who can push in early. In their Week 4 match against Mad, we see a similar trend. After spotting the early gank attempt, Inspired has a level lead to be able to invade Elyoya. He can do this because his pushing lanes will prevent Mad's players from helping out their jungler. This leads to a blue buff steal, and then both scuttles secured for Inspired, catapulting him to an early gold and experience lead. Having priority in lanes also allows other lanes to move out first and collapse on other parts of the map to look for kills or just to zone opponents away from gold and experience. Rogue will usually have at least 2 lanes with priority, and one of them is always bot lane. And we can't talk about bot lane without talking about Hans Sama. His champion pool has been unlike most of his AD carry peers. While 3 of the top picks of the LEC so far have been Tristana, Kai'Sa, and Ezreal, Hans Sama has played none of these champions, instead opting solely for champions that can grant him lane dominance in Kalista, Draven, or Varus. 2 of these picks are also great at setting up for picks or forcing engages, which Rogue relies on heavily as they tend to not stack up a lot of engages in other roles outside of bot lane. Rogue will also then try to strengthen their bot lane by opting to give Trimby the ability to counterpick the support matchup. Paired with an already lane-dominant AD carry pick, this further facilitates the ability for Rogue's bot lane to play the waves as they want, either fully pushing in to get plates, or by zoning out opponents from getting farmed by setting up freezes. When having to blind pick, Trimby will usually pick something that will at the very least have engage and also pair up well with his AD carry's pick. The last big trend that is noticeable about Rogue is how they will funnel gold onto Hans Sama. They will frequently give him space so he can get plates or even full turrets on his own, and move Trimby out of his lane so Hans can accumulate solo experience. After the first half of the season, Hans sat at the top of the AD carry pool, averaging a 1.2k gold lead at 15 minutes over his AD carry counterparts. However, in recent games, we have seen a shift in their focus. In their Week 4 match against Mad Lions, Rogue jumped to an early game lead, but lost it shortly after being out-skirmished by the current LEC champions. To get back into the game, Rogue shifted their attention away from the bot lane. They freed up Trimby and left Hans to farm up gold and experience alone, and instead looked for an angle in the top lane, where they won the skirmish to drop Herald for the first turret. This knock-on effect also pulls Carzzy away from mid, allowing Larssen to grab plates for himself. A few minutes later, and instead of opting for a cross-map play to get Dragon and trade side lane turrets, Rogue opted to defend and use Galio's semi-global ultimate to create a numbers advantage and punish Mad again. This gave Rogue a 2000 gold lead despite being down 1000 gold just 4 minutes earlier. And in their Week 5 match against Misfits, they showed something completely different from their usual style. Going up against a roster that puts heavy emphasis on Herit as one of their main carries, Rogue shifted their attention to top lane to shut him down and picked a more self-sufficient bot lane pick in Ziggs. When faced with the prospect of losing the first turret to a Herald push, Rogue used their teleport advantage to move Ziggs to top lane and destroy it first, while the rest of the team defended the bot lane turret in what was a smart cross-map play. Overall, Rogue have shown to have solid foundations for a team that aspires to become an LEC champion. However, they currently still struggle with building on their early game leads and closing out games, as they let opponents back into matches after smashing them in the early game. This is something that they will have to work on if they ultimately want to lift the trophy.